Can I hear you? Are you?
I can hear
You
you.
there? Okay, great.
You just hadn't
Yeah, we're a little rusty at this.
said it.
All right, let's get into the show. That's a perfect opening. Hello, Luke. How have you been?
I've been good. How have you
Oh,
been?
wait. Good too, but hold on. Welcome to the Content Minds. My name is
Oh,
Ryan
God.
Broderick,
I'm Luke Bailey.
and we decided to do a special end of the year episode because did we shut down the show this year or was it last year? I don't even remember anymore.
I'm pretty sure we recorded a couple of shows in like January. Like I feel like January was the month that it was like because we took like a month off for Christmas and then tried to come back in January and we're just like this is not.
Let's check the
This
old
is not a
Content
vibe.
Minds feed here. It seems like the so the I see. Yeah, okay. So the last real episode of the Content Minds was January of this year, which doesn't feel right to me, but that's what the feed says. So
It seems like I don't know. Ever since about everything that happened before about July this year, it feels like it was 3 years ago.
yeah, it feels like a different year entirely. I've
Yeah.
been looking at some of the beginnings of the retrospective articles coming out, and like it doesn't make sense to me. And I don't know what happened over the summer that made me like bifurcate the year in that way in
It's
my
really
brain.
weird.
But it is, yeah. I don't know. I can't understand it.
It was like a lot of the meme roundups have point out that the kind of the first big meme of the year was that the woman whose name I can't remember at an award show doing like a really terrible song.
The British lady doing that horrible song
Was she
about
British?
Angela Bassett. I thought it
Yeah,
was
that
at a
one.
British award show, wasn't it?
I thought it was American. I know it's very sincere for a British show.
I think that's why it went so viral. It was at the BAFTA Awards,
Oh, so that was British. Okay, wow.
but it was a American doing the horrible song. So
That
that
sounds right.
explains it. That
Yeah.
explains it. It
But,
was a woman from Hamilton. So that would explain.
Right, okay.
it.
But like the idea that was honestly the idea that was post-pandemic feels incredibly odd.
It feels like a thing that should have happened before COVID. I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been very surprised at the things that have happened. I'm also like, although actually, wait, I want to circle back to this idea of like the year being split in half before we properly set up the show. I have a theory. It's Barbie. I think Barbie actually broke
You
our
mean
brains.
Barbie or Barbenheimer?
Well, yeah, but I think like the Barbenheimer thing happened at such a degree that like anything pre-Barbenheimer doesn't feel like the same year.
Okay, that actually makes sense because that was like July, wasn't it?
Yeah, it started early. It started like in May, I want to say. It started at the beginning of the summer as people sort of realized that this was going to happen and this was going to be a thing. And I think it was just too big. It was
That's
too big to
interesting.
handle. Yeah, that's my theory. All right. So we are doing an end of the year episode, a retrospective, and you had asked me if we were going to have a format for this, and then I suggested one, and then you ignored that entirely and told me that you had a grand unified theory of 2023.
I'm sorry. Just to shed some light on kind of like the conversations and the planning that goes into this. Your format was like topics and personal best and worst. That's not a format. That's not anything.
I thought we would pick different
That's
topics.
no. I was like, I was saying like we should have some sort of construction rather than
Yeah.
full freeform. Like have a list format, have something like that. And your
Right.
response was like, what if we just do topics?
I
Which
thought
my
we
answer
could
is
do,
like, well, how is topics not freeform?
well, I thought it could
we'll just
be.
say topics.
I thought it could be like different topics, like AI, and then we would do like the best and the worst of that, and then we would do like platforms. You know, like
Well, that was not contained in the format message that you said.
no, I sent you that text going to the bathroom, and then I completely forgot the conversation, and then you emailed a completely different idea, which was your grand unified theory of 2023. So I
Yeah.
feel like we should start there, and then we can go to my topics idea.
Okay, let's do that. So
So-
my grand
Okay, hold on. Luke, would you please unveil your grand unified theory of 2023?
unified theory of 2023 is that it is the end of the millennial era. Like it is the end of something about millennial culture that I think is I don't know, something's happened this year, and everything bad that's happened has kind of been very millennial coded, and most things that are
All right,
good have not been.
I want you to show your work with this, but first, I do want to acknowledge that like millennials, I make this joke all the time. This podcast was sort of almost created to make this joke over and over again. Millennials aren't actually that old. Like I think the oldest millennial is maybe 40.
The oldest millennial is 42.
Oh, well, in that case, yeah, I agree with you. We're real.
Okay,
old.
but no, but it's not about it's actually not about the oldest millennial. It's about the youngest millennial. The youngest millennial is now 27. So the youngest millennial is kind of no longer a young person by like some distance.
I will say, when I turned 26, you and I had gone out the night before, and then I woke up that morning, and it was the first time I had ever had heartburn from drinking too much, and I thought, ooh, this is different. And by 27...
But that's also a British thing.
Yeah, but like I had never had that before. And then by 27, I feel like my brain I was beginning to lose my grip on culture. So, okay, I agree with you here. So let's go through this piece by piece. What is your proof for this idea that millennials are no longer in the driver's seat? Before we even argue if we ever were, to be honest.
To be clear, it's not that millennials are no longer in the driving seat. It's that millennials... Like, this was an extremely millennial year, and I think it's the last one that'll ever happen.
Is this almost entirely to do with Taylor Swift, or are there other things?
No. She is a good example. Like, the most famous... the most famous celebrity in, I don't know, probably 50 years at this point, is a millennial who became Time Person of the Year, in which she did a photo shoot with her cats.
Yeah, and said a bunch of great stuff about Harry Potter, which I thought was awesome.
A bunch of stuff about Harry Potter, and has a podcaster boyfriend.
Yeah, and they met because of his other podcast.
Exactly, like the entire thing is like extremely millennial coded, and as she is the person of the year, like I think that is super millennial coded. But no, I think all of the other stuff is as well. So I think Barbie is a really painfully millennial film. It has this. There's a particular kind of millennial.
Did you see Barbie?
I did see Barbie. Of course, I saw Barbie.
I saw it twice. It was pretty good.
Did we not talk about this on the last Outside episode?
I don't know if I had seen Barbie yet. Actually,
maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was earlier.
I don't know. I edit the podcast and then I put them out, and then I delete the space in my brain for other stuff. But yeah, it was good. Okay, so Barbie, Taylor Swift. What else you got?
Okay, well, yeah. Just to explain that for people who can get it. The Barbie being very millennial is about how the film is entirely based on people making kind of the entire thing is very like constructed around identity, which is like the key millennial thing, because everything is tied up around identity.
We love identity.
Exactly, we absolutely love identity, and Barbie was like a very, very strong like example of that. Then the third one. Hang on, I need my notes. Sorry. Oh yeah, well the next one is kind of just a very strong thing about the entire Angela Bassett kind of like that meme that started the year. The Angela Bassett did this thing. That is extremely millennial. I don't know if the person who did it was a millennial, but I'm guessing they were. But it also felt extremely sincere and extremely like identity based, and that's like very millennial.
I would also say millennials have like an interesting fixation on award shows.
Yes, absolutely, and that's
we
kind of
love award shows.
The ending of the thing. Then you've also got kind of the new social networks that people are casting around for post Twitter, which are Threads and Blue Sky.
Oh,
Blue Sky maybe less.
I don't want to dwell on this too much, but I should apologize for writing off Threads in our many conversations about it.
Yeah, and
I like I said, I don't want to dwell on this because who can say who's right and who's wrong? But
yes.
It does dawn on me that you had the right take on Threads and that I just did not see it, and that's my problem. My fatal flaw is that I can't predict what the lamest people on earth are going to do on the internet, and that's what happened with Threads. Like,
but the lamest people on earth are millennials, and millennials absolutely fucking love it. Like, every time I go on there, I'm greeted by some fucking millennial going like, "Hey, I love hiking and burgers. introduce yourself. And I'm like, oh, I want to die. I can't use Threads because it's so deeply irritating to me because I am a self-hating millennial. And it is such like an intrinsically millennial platform in a way that like Instagram also is. Like it has that kind of crossover.
Yes, it does. I also will say I know that I'm being sucked into the meta trap because the traffic from Threads is so good right now. It's like an absolute bonanza for garbage day. And I know in the back of my head, I'm like, Meta's doing this to you. They're gonna suck you in, and then they're gonna take the traffic away and make you tap dance to get it back because that's what they do. And I know they're gonna do it. But right now, it's a good time for Threads referrals. I'll tell you that. But it sucks ass. It's a boring place to be. I hate using it. It feels like going to an office. I haven't been to an office since 2020, but it feels like
it's organized fun.
Yeah, it feels like drinking a free La Croix in the waiting room of a tech startup's office every time I log in. Where you're like, oh, this is nice. Oh, this is boring as shit, actually. That's how I feel every time. Although Blue Sky is completely pointless. Like, completely worthless and pointless, and like, I don't even look at it anymore. But, okay, so we've got award shows, Taylor Swift, Barbie, Threads. What else? What else?
I think Planet of the Bass was deeply, deeply millennial and is kind of one of the lingering cultural moments of the year. It was okay. Yeah, no, sorry, you do your bit.
Okay, I am fascinated by Planet of the Bass, and I am fascinated by the guy who did it,
Yes.
Kyle Gordon. I wanted to double check this right now, and I did. He is 30 years old, so he is directly in the millennial age range.
Slap
and do you follow him in any capacity anywhere? Do you?
I explored his public persona as this went big, and I no longer follow him in any capacity.
So as a painfully millennial person, I have gotten really into YouTube Shorts because I spend all my time on YouTube now, and YouTube like recommends shorts, and so I kept getting Kyle Gordon's shorts like recommended to me, and they're basically the exact kind of video that would have been a full YouTube video of the same length pretty much 10 years ago.
Yeah.
In fact, his entire comedic bit, which I think is fascinating, is a thing that we talked about on this show many years ago, which is that all modern humor is just an impression of a person who may or may not exist.
Yes. No, it's 100% that. And all of his comedy is, I mean, it's really bad. Like, it's really, really bad.
I thought Planet of the Bass was pretty good.
Planet of the Bass was absolutely, like, accidentally captured lightning.
Well, I think it is fascinating that he didn't really seem to get why Planet of the Bass was good, which is
no idea why it was funny.
Yeah, which is like he tapped into like a very specific kind of nostalgia, and then the rest of his stuff doesn't really do that. I also stumbled across like a live video of him doing songs live. So he has like an acoustic guitar.
Oh no! So did you see the really bad one, the Jonas Brothers concert?
Yeah. No, but I'm talking about like a live show he did at the Laugh Factory, because I think if you haven't seen this, I think it's a very interesting dimension here. And I don't want to be mean to this guy. Like I think he's funny, but sometimes. But when he performs live, he does this thing where he's like, "This next song was written by," and then he like describes the character who is not like a real person. And then he like spins around and like comes back around in the character, but like he doesn't do any costume changes or anything because like that would be impossible.
Sure.
So he just sort of like does a little flourish, and now he's like in character, and then he performs the song. But it doesn't make any sense because like all of his songs are specific like types of things that don't exist. Oh man, I feel insane describing this.
Yeah.
But you know what I'm talking about. It's shit people says. It's shit girls say. Again, that's all. That's what it is.
He's one of a number of kind of content creators, particularly around shorts, but also like TikTok, also it's kind of reels, kind of all the same like network of things, where people are extremely aggressive about doing this type of person. A bizarrely high number of those people are like this kid that you knew in school, and it's like that's one thing to do when you're 19 or 20 and be like, remember this from a few years ago. But these people are 30, these people are 35, and they're being like, hey, remember this person you knew in school? And it's like, honestly, no, not at this point. I don't really remember much about my school days because it was a long time ago, and I have other things that I'm thinking about. And here's one of them, and there's a group of people who do that a lot, and it's been a very successful thing this year, but it's also very millennial, and it feels like, the more I'm thinking about it, the more I'm thinking is like, it's kind of, this year has been the proof of like millennial culture is like calcified and zombified, and it is done, and new things need to happen now. Like, I imagine there was a similar moment in like 1994 when like Nirvana are the thing that came along that kind of did the post Gen X.
I think that's a fair assessment. It's so funny you bring that up, actually, because I was literally thinking about this the other day, where, you know, I went to school on Long Island, and I like fell in with people who like played in like punk bands or emo bands, or like wrote for the Humor magazine or wrote for the newspaper, and like I thought I was like a fairly normal, if not like mildly eccentric person. And then I got to New York right during the digital media boom, and I met all these people who were like obsessed with being children, and like obsessed with being like I went to like a party once in Williamsburg where like this girl like set up a projector so that everyone could watch old episodes of Nick at Night, like Nickelodeon shows. And like it was like this peak boom of like the era of relatable content. And I thought I was insane. I like spent I think that's part of the reason why I moved to London, where I was like, I don't think I fit in this world. I don't think I fit in with this sensibility. I gotta get the fuck out of here, because this is insane. Everyone is like pretending that they're 16 still, and like and obsessed with like relating to each other and like their identities and all this weird stuff that was happening all over digital media at the time. And then it kind of disappeared because of Trump, and those people kind of like vanished.
I should also point out that when you moved to London, you also multiple times went to a ukulele night.
Well, yeah, I like playing ukulele. I still have one. It's over there.
I feel like that is also part of the same thing. Like, it's extremely millennial to like play the ukulele.
Look, when you're an immigrant, Luke, you've got to find any chance you can to make friends. So my point is, like, I feel like during the Trump era and then into COVID, all of those people kind of like didn't feel comfortable being basic and normie and relatable and identity like obsessed in public spaces online. And now that we've kind of gotten some distance from the calamity, and we've moved into like other kinds of calamities that are like easier to ignore to a degree, those people are coming back.
No, I think it's like people. It's not so much coming back. It's just like they think this still works. They think there's still an audience for this, and I don't think there is.
Well, okay. Let's move to my take on your grand theory, because I do think you're onto something. But hang
on. Can I do one more bit for mine?
Is there more?
No,
okay.
No. It's kind of a follow up of the Planet of the Base thing, which is just while I think about it, because another person who does a lot of the this is relatable to kind of like millennial people is Sabrina Breer, who's in a lot of those. Who's in I think it was in the third one.
Sabrina Breer, by the way, she's very close to being every kind of woman that exists in New York. She's slowly, one by one, being all of the women.
All of the millennial women.
Yeah, all of the millennial women.
Because I've just looked her up. She's 29. She is a millennial.
Okay, there you go.
But the girl who's in the first one, the first video, who like came back and was like kind of the breakout star of it, but who also
she was great.
Yeah, treat the entire thing as a joke, and has moved on entirely and would never mention it again, because she's like, why would I mention this again? Rather than attempt to be the Kyle Gordon, who is mining every single ounce of fame you could possibly get about it. Yeah, she's Gen Z.
So there you go. That makes sense. Okay, wait. So here's my tweak on your thing, and I think you're onto something, but I think you're a little focused on the generational politics here, and I think it's blinding you a little bit, because I do agree with you that we are at this moment where these things that like haven't worked in a long time are working again, and there's kind of this retro feel to something like Barbenheimer or Taylor Swift or Planet of the Bass or what are the other big memes this year? It was like like the Grimace Shakes, like stuff like that, right?
Grimace Shakes, yeah, super millennial coded.
Yeah, because the millennials like love branded fun.
Yep.
So like all this stuff feels like very retro, very early 2010s, but at the same time, we're also seeing possibly like the peak of Mr. Beast.
Well, maybe Mr. Beast is what's coming next.
Well, my read on it, my theory is that it's not so much that like we're at peak millennial, it's that we're sort of shifting back into the way culture worked pre-2013 Facebook algorithm flip.
Oh, okay. No, I wouldn't see that at all, because I don't see Mr. Beast as being. He is not producing the same things. They're not working for the same reason that that stuff worked in 2013.
No,
Like,
but
the recent stuff.
here's my thinking. Basically, if we're losing the digital commons to a degree, so Twitter is, I mean, the most racist place I've been since I used to spend all day on 4chan. I mean, it's like the most racist place.
Pretty bad.
And there's so much pornography, like insane amounts of pornography.
It's impossible. It is impossible to use it in public now.
I can't use. I opened it on the subway today, and I was like, oh, it was literally a picture of a man eating a woman's butt out. I was like, what the fuck? It was on the main feed, like, okay.
And it's so aggressive because it's like you inadvertently or like half engage with one of them, and suddenly it's like, oh, I'm going to show you every other person in this ecosystem. Yep. You're like, all right, cool. I can't use this for a month now because actually another thing that we should talk about at some point today is kind of the OnlyFansification of the internet.
Yeah, we got to go. Well, I think this is all connected, and I think I've got the missing piece here. So basically, from like 2013, 2012, 2013, let's say 2013, the switch gets flipped on Facebook, mobile traffic skyrockets, and the internet becomes what it has been essentially for the last 10 years. And then around 2022, things start to change. Facebook has like completely lost its status to TikTok, which is a very different website. Mm-hmm. And Twitter starts to die. And now we are like a year into this. TikTok is dominant. TikTok is everything, and everything is becoming TikTok or dying. And the main feeds that we use to keep our eye on this like digital monoculture, which was never that much of a monoculture, are pretty much gone. And they're probably not coming back.
Yeah, I'd agree.
If you think about stuff that happened before the monoculture, it was extremely relatable content that people would share with one another because it reminded you of your friend. Mm-hmm. It was, and not like share it in public, but share it with like people you know, right? It was stuff by like, at that time, we didn't really have like a Mr. Beast sized internet creator, but we had reliable places you could go to look at content, whether it was crack.com or Gawker. We had like digital brands that you would go and just sort of refresh.
Yeah.
And we also had essentially just like people taking marketing campaigns and turning them into memes because that's where all of the resources were, and that's who had the money to like cross the digital barrier. And if you think about the top memes of this year, yeah, they happened at award shows. They were marketing campaigns that spun out of control. They were people who you just kind of know do a thing that you can go check all the time. It was super relatable content. It was like amorphous weird memes like the Roman Empire thing or girl dinner that like weren't really a thing, but like became a thing through discourse. Like that to me is what I think is changing.
That's interesting. So, yeah, I mean, we've talked about this before, but there was a very clear period of time when you could kind of yank the entire internet on a string.
Yes.
And BuzzFeed was a certain amount of like finding out like how to do that and do that again and again and again. And other websites did it. Some people did it for good. Some people did it for not so good. I'm looking at you, Donald Trump. But like the idea that one person could kind of do that thing and it would go over it and it would just, you could just yank it and say, hey, we're all going to talk about this now and that's the thing. I don't think you can do that anymore. Like I wouldn't even know how to go about doing that. And I think the fact that Mr. Beast doesn't do that either is a very telling thing about kind of where we're at. Like Mr. Beast can release a video and if you're not looking for it, you won't see it, despite the fact that it's watched by like 100 million people.
The things that are popular, quote unquote, aren't specific anymore because they can't be, because they can't fit into one shape, into one box. Like it has to be a thing that you can make a video about on TikTok and make a thread about on Twitter or X or whatever, or talk about on the news. Like they have to have a bunch of different entry points. So yeah, it can't be like this one weird looking cat is what everyone's talking about now. It's something, it's like an umbrella. So you have to create this like content umbrella, like girl dinner. And then underneath that, you can do all your different versions of it. It's much more participatory. And I think it's largely to do with TikTok because TikTok pretty much only promotes and incentivizes trend-based memes rather than specific ones. So like, you know, the guy who made mashed potatoes in the airplane bathroom this week.
Yeah.
I've seen a couple other people now like post videos of them making weird food in airplane bathrooms. And like, that's an exact kind of thing that you would see now, which is a very old thing. I mean, planking was like this because you had to create participatory memes that you could do regardless of platform or internet speed, 10 years ago. And now it's the same rules again, I think.
Yeah, no, I think you're probably right there. And I also think that we've got to a point where there's kind of no meta anymore. And I think this is a big Twitter thing, which is that Twitter was kind of I don't say quite the gate for everything, but it certainly was the main thing that it was like a clearinghouse for everything. So kind of everything came through there, and it was relatively rare that you would see something happen, that something would happen on another platform, it would never make it there. And now nothing goes there. It's really hard to kind of keep up with what's happening because like that's the place, and it doesn't exist anymore.
On
and
Twitter.
It's not happening on Threads, and it's not really happening on Blue Sky. So you're kind of like, hey, I'm looking through TikTok, and I'm like, I think I'm getting a sense of all of these things. But you're also actually getting what TikTok's feeding you and not what it's feeding everyone else. So you're not getting that.
Yeah. It is it has been really disorienting I still use X every day. I mean, a lot of people are leaving and they should, but I'm also a person who was like regularly checking 4chan for story ideas up until like 2015, 2016. So like for me, this is nothing new. But it is a miserable place to be. And increasingly, it's almost impossible to use both in public and in private because I just get so goddamn horny when I look at it that I end up losing 6 or 7 hours to gooning. But I do think the OnlyFansification of it sort of okay, I think sex workers are great and I have no problem with sex workers. And I think that like actually the internet should be more accessible for them building their businesses. But at the same time, they have invaded X like a virus and now I cannot use it in public without like genuinely possibly getting arrested.
I think it's not just Twitter, it's not just X, it's also like every other platform as well. Like, so yeah, again, kind of, I think, the model that the OnlyFans has replaced is almost definitely, and it's almost definitely an improvement. Like it is not the kind of like, hey, go to California and get paid $200 by a sketchy person and like get exploited. It's like it's much more kind of like there's a much better sense of ownership, which is clearly better. At the same time, it also means that the same incentives apply to sex workers as do to like traditional content creators. So what you then end up with is people essentially kind of figuring out ways that they can, in a work-safe way, promote themselves onto, and then some platforms obviously don't really mind it, like Twitter, which means it makes Twitter unusable. But I don't know, it happens with a lot of other stuff now that you just kind of, okay, so, I am at a point where I would never engage with, I would never like click on a tweet from a woman on like, because if it is a sex worker, then I spend the next 3 days with a load of sex work stuff in my feed. And it's just like, how do we get
worse,
this?
you click on it and their pinned tweet is just like their asshole. And cause I typically check X, like when I'm waiting in line for something, or if I'm on the subway, like, you just pull it and you look at it. And if you see somebody tweet about something, like in the jobs that we do, you kind of have to go like, okay, who is this person? What are they doing? This is weird. You click on their profile, and if they're like an OnlyFans model, usually their pinned tweet is a nude. And so all of a sudden you are the guy looking at pornography in real life. And it's happened to me so many times that like I just can't do it I can't open it anymore.
It's the same exact process as it used to be when you would check someone to see if they were a Nazi.
Yes, exactly. But here's what's really interesting about that though. So 15 years ago, basically, if you were minding your own business on the internet, there was like a sizable chance, like 30 to 40% chance that if you like clicked the wrong link, you would end up like looking at gore, looking at nudity, or like looking at extremists. And then we sort of pushed the wilderness back. And a lot of these platforms were like, no, you can use us and you don't have to worry about that. And obviously it was never perfect. And most of my career has been spent poking holes in that and being like, no, this is not true. But it is interesting to me that right around the time Elon Musk bought Twitter and decimated its community moderation standards, every other platform kind of fell in line too. And now all of the wilderness is growing back. And essentially, if you use any major service other than Instagram, you have a pretty good chance of accidentally looking at some kind of deranged, like white supremacist neo-Nazi who's verified and tweeting nonstop, or someone's asshole, or literal gore now because of the conflict in Israel and Palestine.
Yeah, he's either literal or figurative asshole.
Yeah. No, it is interesting that these old problems are back.
Yeah, and it's also, I mean, Threads has a similar problem. Like, Threads has kind of a similar, like, sex work problem in that a lot of sex workers use Instagram as a kind of safe for work version of their OnlyFans page, which means they use Threads as a safe for work version of their OnlyFans page. So they have a kind of a similar problem as well, which is like, yeah, it's very odd, and it's slightly, again, slightly better than the previous version, I think, but it's not good, and it's also got this weird thing that the wilderness used to exist for kind of the sake of the wilderness, and now it exists for pure capitalism.
Yeah, it's the gig economy of everything.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly, and it's kind of like, yeah, these bits where it's like, oh, there's something weird happening over here. It's like, oh, it's a scam, or oh, it's someone asking for money for sex work, or someone asking for money for Bitcoin, or someone asking for money for something. And it's like, okay, so this is what we're doing now. Like, it's just people yelling at each other for money. That's fun.
Well, I mean, I think we talked about this, but right around the time of the GameStop pump, the mechanism for virality and the mechanism for capitalism got hooked together, and they haven't been unhooked yet. So essentially, if you roll the dice to go viral, you have that's directly proportional to the amount of money you might be able to make. And no platform has done anything to make that different. I mean, the only platform I think that isn't really an issue is maybe Reddit, but there's plenty of scams there too. But
yeah, it depends where you go on Reddit. But also, Google have now pointed their fire hose at Reddit for some mad reason. So, I don't know.
I'm fine with that.
You may not be following this.
Well, the only things I ever Google are things for Reddit. I only use Google now to look up things on Reddit.
I get that, and for you that makes a lot of sense. But if I told you that kind of Reddit's traffic has been going up by like 10-20% month on month for a few months now, because of the way that Google has changed things, it means that you're ending up on Reddit, but so is like your mom and every random person around who's looking for like reliable information and stuff is now ending up on either Reddit or other forums.
I'm sure that's fine, though. I'm sure that's totally fine.
That seems fine.
Yeah, that's never gone wrong in the past. I'm sure that's totally fine.
Yeah, it seems to be kind of a response to like AI, that it's like, okay, we'll use forums because they are a more guaranteed version of like first person experience with stuff. But as a result, it's just ported everyone from news sites to Reddit, which I'm confident is going to be great.
I'm sure that's good
in 11 months.
I'm sure that's really good. Yeah, I mean, the election thing is interesting because without really a prominent place for news anymore, it doesn't exist in this current landscape.
I don't hear anything about what Donald Trump is doing. Like, this may be different in the US, but it's...
No, man, I have no idea. I have honestly no idea what he's doing, other than every couple weeks I see a poll that says he's doing really well. But I don't know what he's doing.
Every week I see every second week I see a poll that he's doing well. Every week after that, I see a story about another court case that he is, for some reason, being convicted in.
That's exactly it.
That is exactly the rhythm. Here's what he's been convicted of. Here's why he's doing well in the polls. And it's like, all right, cool. I assume this is happening. But, I assume he's saying mad shit at his rallies. I don't really know.
I have no idea. I am personally a big supporter of Vivek Ramaswamy, because the other night he got on Twitter Spaces with Alex Jones and forgot to mute himself and then pissed for like a minute and a half.
That's good. That's relatable. So, see, that is relatable millennial
content.
That's
relatable. Is he a millennial? I bet he is. He's 38.
Like
he's a millennial. He's peak millennial. And yeah, I think that's super cool. Just get on a Twitter Space with Alex Jones and piss yourself. That's super neat. Oh yeah, Alex Jones is back. That's another tick for sort of like peak millennial, isn't it? He's very. Yeah. I mean, he's not a millennial, but he is very millennial. We love him.
But he has to sort of, work his way around all of the sex workers in order to get any attention, and doesn't seem to be doing that.
I feel very bad for him because he's coming back to a very different Twitter, and I'm not sure if he's going to survive. Because he's got to show whole. Alex Jones needs to show whole if he wants to get any sort of cut through on this. I mean,
he does love showing shirtless photos of himself. To be fair, so he is part way there.
He does do that.
In many ways, it's one of the most sensible things that Trump did was not coming back to Twitter, because like...
Oh, I thought you were going to say not showing his shirt off. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't think... I don't think
He wouldn't have the power to like, grab the entire platform by the throat anymore. I don't think.
I don't think Trump would really understand how to show one of the 4 blurry screenshots of one of those like very popular porn videos and then do a tweet that's like, everyone remembers one of these videos. Have you seen that like those posts going around?
I keep saying it. Like, I mean, I assume they're porn videos, but I assume that also each time I see it, someone is changing one of the images to be like a meme, and I don't recognize
But they don't.
the meme. I don't recognize the meme or the porn video. I'm just I don't.
I mean, I do think there's something interesting in porn content becoming more mainstream to a degree, just because of the dynamics of being a content creator, and it all kind of like becomes the same thing at a certain level. Like I did a bunch of stories this year about porn stars faking podcasts to advertise their OnlyFans, and I was able to find the company that was kind of responsible for all of them, and they're called Fanbus. And it was interesting, like going down that rabbit hole and seeing how they operate, where like they're basically finding like the bottom barrel TikTok stars that would have been like world star hip hop kind of figures like 10 years ago, and then just like filming them having sex with porn stars. And it's like so grim and fucked up and bad, but it goes super viral because, like, from what I gather, younger internet users have absolutely no problem just like openly being horny on main. At least some of them, I guess.
But it's because they're not horny in real life.
Right. Yeah. Because they've never been outside before. So that's just how it works. And I guess that's part of this whole like puzzle that we're trying to put together, is that like there is just a whole bunch of internet users like who do not care being like super horny on the main feed anymore. And millennials were never horny on main. Actually, we're very bad at it. We're horny in real life, but we're actually terrible about being horny online.
I mean, it goes back and forth. Like, if you're horny in public, then you're privately. Well, actually, I mean, there's a kind of a few theories about like the cyclical nature of history. One of them is like sex and death are constantly inverted. So some cultures, like a culture like prioritizes sex for a while, but finds death super taboo, and then it like flips and it finds death they talk about a lot, and sex is super taboo. So like the Victorians loved death, always talked about it, like it was like a big thing for them, but they would never mention sex in any format, and that was like appalling. And then you go back to like the Georgians, and they love sex, but they didn't really talk about death, and it kind of like cycles through history like that. And I think we're probably in a bit of that, and it kind of goes back and forth.
I subscribe to the baggy pants, tight pants, coolness, mass appeal dynamic. So basically, at the time in history, the baggier the pants, the more valuable coolness and vibes are, and the tighter the pants, the more valuable mass appeal and like relatability is.
Okay, I don't know 100% subscribe to that, because like it feels like the Strokes would be very vibe based.
Yeah, but the Strokes were on the other side. Okay, but think about it like a clock, right? So we are currently about to flip over to baggy pants and cool vibes.
Oh, I think we're just coming out of baggy pants. Like
no, we're going into it. And the Strokes were on the other side of it, going into skinny jeans and mass appeal. So they were like boot cut and hipsters. And then it flips entirely to like fucking Netflix teen comedy era or something, like the 2010s, right? Like Hillary Clinton, Pokemon Go to the polls. And then now we're coming out of that and going into like super niche, weird, cool, totally inaccessible pop culture, like the 90s.
Okay. Yeah, okay, I see that.
As pants get bigger. I don't have skinny jeans anymore. I got rid of them all.
So what you're saying is the next generation's friends is Skibbity Toilet.
Oh, man. So I've had a lot of funny conversations about Skibbity Toilet this year. I want to give a shout out to Garbage Day researcher Adam Boomis, who caught that really early because he's Gen Z and I'm not. And we had a lot of hilarious and confusing conversations about what that was, because I had never heard of Gary's Mod before. But I'm very happy that I got the early kind of warning about that, because no one of our age group and older was prepared for the popularity of Skibbity Toilet this year, which I think is
I think an awful lot of people our age group and older do not know what Skibbity Toilet is, and I think would look very confused if I said it to them.
I just say it all the time now. I mutter it all. I just say Skibbity Toilet. Yeah, it is interesting to me that snuck up on people. Five Nights at Freddy's also snuck up on people. Like
Yeah.
I do think like the next thing, the next wave that is about to hit, and maybe this is tying into your grand unified theory, is we're about to like see huge manifestations of Gen Z nostalgia. Like nostalgia for things that we have no reference for. And a lot of it's internet based.
I saw someone the other day tweet that Rey from Star Wars meant a lot to them because it was their favorite character in Star Wars growing up. And that made me want to die.
I fell down a rabbit hole about this on Reddit the other day. I came across like a vehemently defensive Star Wars sequels fandom on Reddit that is pissed that the Rey movie is getting moved for the Mando movie because they've been waiting for Rey to come back since they were a kid.
Ugh. Oh, man.
Which, isn't that like 4 years ago? Like, wasn't the last Rey movie
the first Rey movie was 2015. So
but
they were like
the last one was 2019, right?
They were 9-year-olds. People who were 9 when they watched the first Rey movie are they're now like old enough to drink in the UK.
Okay, in the UK, yeah. Because like Rise of Skywalker caused the pandemic, right? It came out in 2019. Isn't that the thing that like did it? Yeah, okay. So yeah, I don't have any reference for any of that stuff, and I find it fascinating. It doesn't like bother me because like our nostalgia was super weird too, but I think it's gonna freak out a lot of people, particularly people who are like paid by media organizations to write about culture. And I think it's already started, actually.
Yeah. I mean, I think part of it, actually, and this also speaks to my grand unified theory, is the kind of end of Marvel thing. Because Marvel is super millennial.
All right, I want to hold the Marvel chat to the end. We'll do content to stay sane. But I agree with you. I've gotten to a point with Marvel where I can't even remember why I liked it in the first place. But we'll get there. Before we sort of like move over to that section, is there anything else that we haven't kind of hit?
Do we want to do any AI stuff?
Well, okay. So what I will say is like, okay, I want to try to put together everything we've said, and you tell me how I do here, and if I get this right. So basically, millennials are sort of cresting. This is our kind of maybe our last big year at the front of culture, if even that. Gen Z is like becoming unignorable. Like they're everywhere, and they're driving things now quite a bit. And
I think it's not our crest. It's not millennials. Not cresting. Millennials are like, this is the last millennial year. This is like a calcified bad version of millennial culture. You can make the case that millennial culture was never good, but this is definitely the worst version of it.
Yeah, we're like a SpaceX rocket exploding all over a small town in Texas. And a lot of the systems that we used for measuring culture, particularly, specifically Facebook and Twitter, don't really work anymore. And the media that we built on top of those systems are totally unprepared for finding things without those systems. So we're kind of like moving off a cliff in a really funny way that I think a lot of older people are really freaked out about, but I'm very excited about, to be honest, because I think it's very easy to get like bogged down by this and feel very like depressed and feel malaise about it. But there's like more stuff than ever, and no one is paying attention to it, which I think is awesome. Like, I think it's really cool. Plus, I was mercilessly bullied by Gen Xers for most of my teenage years and college years. So like, I'm really excited to be part of like a cool generation again.
I don't think that's how it works.
Like I can be cool now, right?
No, it's the opposite.
Did I miss it?
You've got like 15 years, and then you'll be cool again.
Okay, but only if I'm oblivious to it. You got to do the Trump thing where you got to be like a weird old man that doesn't know that he's popular.
Yeah, or like Steve Buscemi in the 30 Rock episode.
Or yeah, okay. I guess the last piece here with which we haven't really talked about AI, but there's like not really much to talk about with AI other than like it's here, I guess. And it's very popular. But I do think a lot of the confusion everywhere else in the pop culture world is a lot to do with like Silicon Valley just losing complete interest in social networks and putting all of their time and energy into these AI tools that may or may not matter in a year or two. Which it's part of the Google thing too, where like Google, I have Bard running on it now, and it's getting better all the time. It's still not.
Yeah,
good,
it's definitely part of it. I don't know. It's tricky to tell kind of how much of it is a reaction to other stuff and how much of it's just like, hey, AI could be something. Like, it feels very much at the moment like everyone's running towards a possible gold rush without really knowing if there's any gold there. But on the way, they're going to make it just a load of shitty things. And now we all have to deal with the shitty things.
There's so many shitty things. Like, it's awesome and amazing how many shitty AI things there are.
Like, everything. I still don't think I've seen implementation of AI that I'm like, oh, that's cool.
I mean, I pay for a bunch of them to mess around with them, and 11 Labs is probably the best one. Like, I think 11 Labs, the one that clones audio, is really impressive, and I use it for live events. I'll use it as like a demo, but I'm not using it for anything other than being like, look what AI can do, which is I think the issue.
That's kind of it. And I know a few people who like use it to turn kind of notes into like a professional email, which I think is a non-zero, like it's something, but it's not like world changing. It's like just saving a bit of time.
Yeah, I mean, I use Otter, which is a transcription tool, and it uses an AI to transcribe stuff. And I used Runway, which is a video AI, and I did like kind of a cool thing where I took the Garbage Day logo and I fed it into the AI and made it spit it out as different like visual aesthetics, and then I put them together in DaVinci Resolve to make like a little motion graphic of it like glitching and turning into different art styles. And I thought that was kind of cool, and that's like not something that I could have done without an AI, and it wouldn't have looked the same.
No, I mean, I think there's a certain amount of kind of, I don't know, there's a really interesting bit in the 2003 Will Smith movie I, Robot.
The best. Yeah, it's a great movie.
Yeah. Where the robot, voiced by Alan Tudyk, I think.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Like, Will Smith says something like, you're not a real human being, you're not real intelligence, like, you couldn't, like, paint a landscape or write a symphony. To which the robot's response is, can you?
Yeah.
And I think there's an awful lot of it, like, where AI is replacing what someone can do, but it's not a thing that no one can do. And I think there's a key difference there.
I also think that, like, to go back to your big point here, if we really are on like the precipice of a big sea change, AI as this force that's codifying the shittiest, most basic millennial impulses online, whether it's vector art or crappy SaaS services or whatever, I think that is part of it. Or if you view it less as a replacement tool for work in the future, and rather a repository for the shittiest, lamest, most basic things of the past, that you just like want to be able to pull out really quickly, like that to me makes more sense. If you were to say like, I just don't want to do this lowest common denominator thing for my terrible e-commerce website, I'm going to have the AI do it. Like, that makes sense to me. It's not going to give you anything new. It's not going to produce anything interesting. It's just going to, you know, like the 4chan raid where they figured out that DALL-E 3 could make racist Pixar movie posters. That's like an internet campaign that would have required like human beings being racist inside of Photoshop, and it was able to automate that immediately. And so, you know, that's what AI is for. AI is for mass harassment and racism automated super easily, or making really bad pornography, I guess. Like, but even that, I don't think people care about. I don't buy into the narrative that it's going to replace OnlyFans or whatever, because like that's not why people look at OnlyFans. Like, if you want, you can go look at a boob right now.
They look at OnlyFans because they're constantly bombarded by it on every single platform they use.
I look at OnlyFans because I've got to support my girls. You know, they rely on me.
As a millennial, you look at pornography in a progressive way.
Yeah, I mean, it's not my fault. I was checking out cool podcasts on Instagram, and turns out all of them are OnlyFans people. So now I just support them that way. But yeah, I think you're right. I think you're ultimately quite right. And I want to kind of end this with a look towards the future. And so obviously I had said my big prediction is Gen Z nostalgia is about to hit hard, and it's going to be totally disorienting for anyone over the age of 27. What is your big prediction for 2024?
I think 2024 is going to be a bad year for news publishers.
It's going to be so bad, dude.
Like, I don't think there's been a good year for news publishers for about 50 years. Maybe Watergate, I think, was the last good year for news publishers, or the first Gulf War, maybe. But yeah, I don't think I think it's gonna be a really weird post-search, post-social world, and I don't think we've really figured out what that's going to look like yet. And I think it's going to be a bit of a weird year.
It is crazy how an entire type of writing is pretty much gone now, and only really being done by people on Substack.
What, like blog writing, basically?
Like in the US, I mean, there's now like a couple like worker co-ops, like the incredible 404 Media or the newer gaming site Aftermath. And there's a couple of these Defectors, obviously a big one.
I saw a sticker for Defector in Mascara Bar in Stoke Newington like a few months ago.
That's cool.
Yeah,
that's
surprising.
Really interesting. That is surprising. I didn't know British people could see our internet. That's interesting.
Didn't know they could read.
Yeah, I didn't know British people could read. But it is sad that like there's just I don't know. I started to think about this during the Osama bin Laden TikTok fiasco, where I was like, if there were internet culture writers worth anything still left in any of these publications, like this would have not required me to debunk it. This would have been debunked out the gate.
I also kind of think like, I don't know. I'm not convinced that was not a thing at all. I think the problem is that we can't accurately frame what a thing is.
Well, that is true. We can't define it anymore.
Yeah, exactly. And I just think that this, like, so much what we look at with old school numbers is kind of like saying X many people read this, X people shared this. And the reality is what we're trying to kind of think about now is a little bit more is like scale is short. Like, I'm sure there are a bunch of TikTok trends in which I make up 20 views of it. And I didn't even know that I'm on that trend. Like,
do you know about the Polish crawl cult?
I don't know about the Polish crawl cult, but
they like crawl around the mall.
No, but like, okay, so that I've already noticed. But I feel like there are other things where it's like, hey, yeah, you've seen like how many views do you think you contributed on TikTok to like Halloween tagged content? I have no idea.
Oh, so many.
Right, but that's kind of it. Whereas the thing is, we're
all part of it,
right? And this is kind of what I mean. I think there's a real strange thing with what we're trying to use old metrics to measure, which is kind of like reach, because that's how it felt like what it used to be. And in reality, even at the time, you kind of knew like actually what you're trying to measure is depth. And there's no real strong way to measure that on TikTok. So when you say, okay, 10 million people have seen this Osama bin Laden trend, if all 10 million of those people have gone like, whoa, I need to look up Osama bin Laden's manifesto because he might have been right, that's an insane, like, important thing compared to like 1 billion people who've seen Halloween content on TikTok, which is like, sure. And I just think there's no way realistically with what we know right now to measure the difference between those two things.
Well, I think the other thing is that we're compressing the speed quite a bit because, okay, let's compare it to something like the anonymous mask, right? So the anonymous mask starts to become like a thing online because of like V for Vendetta memes on 4chan or wherever, and it starts popping up in real life, and it becomes like this thing where you're gonna see like a guy with like a stinky guy in a Guy Fawkes mask at some kind of protest you're at.
Yeah, but originally that was because they were all occupying. There were no showers, rather than.
Oh no! I mean, like, you know, like a stinky guy in a leather coat, you know, and he shows up with a Guy Fawkes mask and like usually fingerless gloves of some kind. If we had, you know, in the days following that the Guardian thing saying that they're trending, if like Osama bin Laden's like letter had been printed out and like handed out at protests or something, or had like any real world crossover of any capacity, be like, oh yeah, okay, like this is clearly like there's something here. I don't know of what scale, but like there's clearly some sort of connection here. But if the issue is that like a bunch of extremely kind of uninformed TikTok users were like, you got to check out this thing, and the Guardian has this thing and people are looking it up, we can't know if it's like that meme where it's like I'm reading like Mein Kampf in public and shaking my head the whole time so people know that I don't agree with him. Like, you can't know. Like, you just and yeah. I don't and I feel like kind of insane being like, if we're gonna write about this stuff like it's a moral panic, we have to acknowledge that the implied answer, the implied result of this stuff is like increased surveillance and increased like content policing of people in ways that like doesn't make any sense. I don't know. Like I almost wanted to like shake people at CNN and be like, what do you want to happen here? Like, what is the end goal in your mind?
But why does journalism have an end goal?
I think it ends up having one whether they think they do or not.
See, I don't agree that it does. I think it does de facto have one, but I don't think in practice that's kind of the thing that a journalist goes in thinking.
I think this is an issue, though, because if you think, and I get it, like I've been in journalism school, I've been in newsrooms for most of my life. I understand the sort of like idea of the view from nowhere and the sort of like I'm just asking question things, and that's fine. I get it. But when you're talking about like whether or not a populace is doing something, when you're talking about something at that scale, and then you're talking about access to information on the internet, even if you think that you don't have an implied end goal, you end up having one. It was the same thing with Kirby doing 9/11 with AI, where it's like, well, so what's the answer here? Like Kirby shouldn't do 9/11 with an AI?
Right, sure, but what I mean is like, if you're looking at this and saying like, hey, it is a story that like,
but that's disingenuous.
Somewhere,
it's disingenuous.
But somewhere between tens of thousands of young people and millions of young people are going, hey, Osama bin Laden had a point. Like, there is something, that is an interesting thing that is happening, and just saying, like, but we don't know if it matters or not. It's kind of like I don't think it's a really strong, I'm with you on the kind of like, I don't think we agree on this, like, you need to have a reason to publish rather than a reason not to publish. Like we have that kind of same conscious thing, but I think also, like, the reason to publish is like, here is a weird thing that's not happened before, that is happening to a significant number of people. We don't know that exact number, but it is significant.
I guess
it's newsworthy.
I feel like we've done this dance for so many years about like random shit on the internet, like the Momo challenge or Blue Whale or the NyQuil chicken, and like it's always the same thing. It's always the same thing. And I understand the like, is this a story thing? And you know what? If I had an editor still, I know for a fact that I would have had to write some fucking piece about it.
I feel like I should point out you did write a piece about this.
I know I would have to. And at no point in the process would I have ever been allowed to ask or allowed to even, figure out a framing for like, okay, if this is true, like how many people, how is this traveling? Like what is the ins and outs of this thing? And like, that's what's getting me, is because now we don't have a radar. We don't have a rudder. We don't have what's another metaphor for this? We don't have like we
don't have a good map.
We don't have a flashlight anymore. Okay. All right. We don't have a flashlight. And I think that it is I think it is worth, in moments like this, especially when, the White House is watching this stuff, when when you're part of a very, very delicate geopolitical crisis, to take a second and be like, okay, like how many people are saying Osama bin Laden had a point? And like, does that sound right to you? Like truly, like be serious.
Yeah. Look, I just think it's important that we don't give Yashar credit for anything.
I also think that's good. I think that's really good, and I think
because he'll never pay you back aside from anything else.
He won't. He won't. He got very mad at me when I called him out about that. I also think that this entire thing eclipsed like the funniest part of this, which is that like the Guardian saw a bit of internet traffic and freaked out.
Oh no! They saw a lot of internet traffic. Like
I know, but it's just very Guardian to me. It's just very Guardian to me.
I don't know, man. That thing has sat on their site for 10 years and has gone viral like once every 6 months when someone goes, I can't believe the Guardian wants to publish Osama bin Laden. The amount of traffic they must have seen from that to delete that is like a lot.
That's interesting. I sort of assumed that like it had done its like yearly like Osama bin Laden had a point traffic, and because of the politics of the moment, they got rid of it. I thought that
it was a lot more for a period. It was like the most read thing on their site.
Do you know?
Yeah, I know. Like it was the most read thing on the site, and they had to delete it because they were like, yeah.
Were they running ads on that?
No, I don't think they did. I think that they have a thing with like older posts they don't run ads on or something. Like I'm sure there's something like that. I can't remember exactly what, but I doubt they made money from it.
All right, well,
but still.
Hopefully someone made some money off of that, because that was a fiasco.
Well, I guess you did. You wrote a post and you got subscribers off it. Like you made money.
I should also say like Osama bin Laden, bad dude. We don't agree with him. And that letter is like is awful. It's bad. I don't think he has Riz. Speaking of Riz, I guess there's no transition here. Hey Luke, have you consumed any content to stay sane this week?
No, actually, no content at all. No, I don't know.
I've tried to text you about content a few times, and you have not taken the bait. Other than the new Menzingers album, which we had a brief conversation about. But yeah, you don't seem to be very content filled this year.
I don't know. I'm trying to think of like what the interesting stuff is that I want to talk about. I mean, we should talk about Marvel and like where that.
So where are you in it? What have you watched last?
So I'll do the brief announcement here, but I have in the last 6 months I've developed a different relationship with Marvel because I'm having a baby in 3 months, which
right.
you know.
Congratulations.
You know about this.
What?
Yeah. But it does make it kind of like me think slightly differently about like what about this is good, what's not good about this, like why do I like this, why do I hate this, and I think a lot of the Marvel stuff has been bad, but I thought the Marvels was really, really good and fun and was something that I was like I just like enjoyed for what it was in a way that I haven't really thought about another Marvel movie in quite a long time.
I enjoyed the Marvels. I thought it could have been better, obviously. And I think it has new interesting problems rather than like the same old problems that Marvel's had forever. Yeah. I think the TV shows are just a mistake. Even if I like some of them, I think it's just completely scrambled the ability to follow what's going on. I also think that like Infinity War into Endgame turn the Marvel Universe into one story, and switching back to a bunch of different movies and not following that story anymore completely disoriented me, and I've just never recovered. Because I was like into that. I was into sort of like the Game of Thrones style of Infinity War and Endgame, where it's like a bunch of different pieces moving around towards some sort of end goal. And then they just stopped doing that. And when they jumped back into the movies, they weren't very good, and they weren't really following up with anything I cared about. And they still have yet to kind of introduce anything that really matters to me.
Yeah, no, that is exactly it. It's really hard to say that anything in them matters, that anything in them is honestly even interesting at this point. But I don't know. I do think there's, and again, I think the Marvels is kind of the shining light here of like, there is an interesting thing here that can carry on. And I also think the Spider-Man movie was also good, but I think everything else in between that has been quite bad.
Yeah. I mean, Shang-Chi had a good first 2 acts, and then it gets very dumb and bad. I liked Multiverse of Madness, but it wasn't like I knew in my brain it wasn't good, but I just enjoyed the Sam Raimi direction so much that like I was having fun with it.
I think one of the problems is they keep setting up the multiverse, but they've set the multiverse up in like 6 different properties now.
Okay, wait. We haven't talked about this. Finish your thought, and then I have a thought.
Well, because like they've set it up in Multiverse of Madness. They set it up in the Marvels, actually. They set it up in Loki, obviously. They set it up in what else did they set it up? And there was something else. I can't remember now. But like it feels like they're constantly talking about like the multiverse. It's like, okay, sure, we know the multiverse exists. Let's do it now. And it feels like they keep like hinting at it and then backing away from it. And it's like, well, why are we doing this then?
Okay. Marvel does not understand what makes a multiversal story interesting. And there's only 3 movies in my mind that have successfully done it. And the first one is It's a Wonderful Life with Jimmy Stewart. It is the first multiversal movie. The man jumps off a bridge, and then an interdimensional being takes him to an alternate universe where he never existed, and he has to reckon with like who he is. Because that's
if you want to do that,
right?
then we're just doing A Christmas Carol.
A Christmas Carol, you could argue, but I'm not sure. Does he see alternate dimensions in that?
Yeah, no,
or is it just different timelines?
Christmas past, Christmas future, Christmas present, and it's like
but those aren't. But those aren't. Those are his home dimension.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah.
You could argue Christmas future, but I don't think. No, because he never leaves base reality. Okay, so It's a Wonderful Life. He sees an alternate dimension where he doesn't exist, and through that he like discovers his own worth and how he fits into the world. Everything All at Once does this trick as well, and so does Spider-Verse. They're all about using alternate dimensions to kind of show you opportunities missed or help you realize kind of like your own place in your universe.
Yeah.
The problem with Marvel's multiverse is that they're not doing that at all. And in fact, Doctor Strange should have been that. Like the Multiverse of Madness should have been like Doctor Strange going to a bunch of universes where he never existed and then like learning why he matters. They do the opposite, but they don't even really do the opposite because you never actually see any of it. You just like meet a mean Doctor Strange at the end.
Yeah.
None of the multiversal stuff is making the Marvel characters matter more or make you care about them more. You could argue maybe No Way Home, but not even really.
Yeah. It's I know it's very weird, but it's one of those things that the more I just think Marvel's in a very odd place right now, and it's only going to get worse. Like, I think this entire cycle is going to be bad for some time, and it's only once the Gen Alpha start getting interested again, we'll get some better stuff because we got. I think we got a bad 15 years coming.
I think so too. You know what franchise though I'm super amped about, and I cannot wait to see the new one of.
What franchise?
Godzilla. I fucking love Godzilla. Godzilla is big and he is strong and he destroys stuff, and Godzilla can be silly and Godzilla can be scary. And I'm watching the Apple TV show for Godzilla, and it's great because Kurt Russell and U.S. Agent, the guy, that actor is his son.
Yeah, I know the guy.
And they're playing the same character, but in two different timelines. It's fucking great. And it's stupid. And they're hunting Godzilla or whatever. I don't even know what's going on. But then there's also Godzilla -1, which is supposed to be amazing. And Shin Godzilla is like one of the best movies ever made. And I'm on a real Godzilla kick right now. I think Godzilla is the moment, to be honest.
Okay. I mean, I can live with that.
Yeah. I think movies are back. I've been really enjoying like movies again. Not franchises, but like The Killer was good. Don't Leave the World Behind was good. May December was good. So the Netflix movies are getting really good. Oppenheimer, I fucking loved it.
Well, okay. What is your movie of the year then? What is the content that made you feel the most sane?
Oh, that's
not the
question.
measure. That's not the measure. What's your favorite movie?
I think it's Oppenheimer. Oppenheimer was so good. Oppenheimer like reminded me like what movies could be. I haven't seen Killers of the Flower Moon yet, but I really liked Oppenheimer.
I think
May December was kind of mind blowing too. It's a disgusting and grotesque film, but I highly recommend it. But no, Oppenheimer is a blast.
I think mine was Oppenheimer as well. Like it's one of those movies that like it took me like weeks to get out of my head.
Yeah, no,
I was just constantly like thinking about little bits of it, and it was really something.
It's really great. TV is not good anymore, I've noticed, but movies are good again. TV's like really bad, actually.
I was really disappointed with this second season of Foundation.
I can't get through the first. It's so dumb and like not even fun dumb. Is it worth getting through?
So Foundation was one of my favorite book series growing up. Like I really loved it. So it was one of those things that I was like, you cannot adapt this won't work. But they made a bunch of changes to it, which actually made it work better. And like it's a proper like kind of looking at the book and saying, this is unfilmable. Let's take the spirit of it and make it filmable. And I thought they did a really good job with that in the first season. And the second season, I started watching and I feel like I can't get past like, I don't know, 3 episodes or something. I don't know what's different about it, but I never turn it on, and it's like there's a certain point at which you got to just accept, like, hey, yeah, you haven't quite nailed this the second time around.
You know who is doing TV pretty good? Eric Kripke and the Boys universe is honestly a lot of fun. Gen V, I did not have any expectations for it, and I feel like if you're gonna do universe building, that's the way to do it. I thought it was really clever. Have you seen it at all?
Yeah, no, I watched the first season. I think halfway through the second. I think I have not gone to. I have not gone to Gen V.
Okay, so you're not even up to date on the Boys.
I'm not even up to date on the Boys.
The Boys starts kind of silly, and it starts to evolve into like a RoboCop level satire that is like ultra violent and real, like a real like late '80s, early '90s like splatter punk satire that I really appreciate. And then Gen V goes in a completely different direction, and it's great. I really, in fact, I think it's actually made me like Marvel less because I was watching Gen V and Loki week to week, and I was like, I don't give a fuck about Loki anymore, even though the ending was fine. But Gen V, I was all on board for.
The ending of Loki was fine, but I was just like, I don't know why it took 2 seasons of like, I don't know how many episodes it was, like 50. It felt like 50 episodes. It wasn't. But however many episodes it was.
If only there was a way to have condensed that story into a 2.5 hour single episode of a long TV show. What do you call that? Is it a movie, I guess?
Like a
Because that would have been
like a
pretty
super
good.
episode sort of thing.
Yeah, I think you actually could have very easily told that story in a movie, and it would have been pretty good, actually.
All the stuff, all the like promo that Tom Hiddleston was doing around it, where he was like, "Yeah, no, it's the completion of a story that I've been telling with this character for 12 years, or whatever." And I was like, "Ugh, buddy, this has not been the conclusion of the story that I think you thought you were going to get to."
I mean, it's also very clear that like they use it to possibly write out Kang, and I think I don't see Kang going forward, but that's just my personal opinion. That's not based on anything, but I don't. No. Just bring in Doom already.
I don't see how they can carry on with Kang. I mean.
Is there anything you're excited about in the world of content for next year?
Next year, no, I don't think so.
No,
I'm trying to think.
I'm not interested in content.
Well, I don't know. I'm trying to steer away from franchises a bit because I'm less interested in them now.
Yeah, me too. Is this what growing up is? Are we growing up in our 30s, or is it the culture has changed?
Hey, do you want something terrifying?
Yeah.
When my child is born next year, it will be 15 years since the Iron Man came out. When we were born, it was 12 years since the first Star Wars came out.
Oh, I don't appreciate that. Is that why you're naming your baby Iron Man?
Yeah, that's the plan. Yeah.
Oh, that's awful to think about, though.
Yeah. This is one of the things that I've been thinking about. I'm like, oh man, it's gonna be so great to like show these movies. I was like, wow, these movies are gonna be even older than like Star Wars was to us.
I mean, the original Iron Man makes zero sense in the context of both our world and the Marvel Universe now.
That's
like
true.
Zero.
Yeah.
I'm excited for content. I think I'm excited. I think I'm excited to watch less TV. It's already happening. There's like less and less shows, and the ones that I'm binging like don't even exist in my brain anymore. The week-to-week shows I'm really appreciating, and I'm remembering what it's like to watch TV on a normal schedule again, and I'm enjoying movies again. I'm also playing video games. I bought a Steam Deck, so I've been gaming. Turns out this little franchise called Metal Gear Solid. Never played one before. Pretty good. Highly recommend.
That's good. I'm just skimming through the movies for next year, and I think the only one that jumps out as being interesting is the second Dune film.
The second Dune film? Oh, yeah.
Dune 2,
That's probably going to be pretty good, isn't it?
And I don't think anything else is kind of like, are you looking forward to Kraven the Hunter?
Well, I'm going to save it until after I've seen Madam Web and decide, if I want to see Kraven. I can't believe they're making, but we know what's happening, right? We know that they're making all those movies so they can come into Spider-Man 4 and he's going to fight like a multiversal Sinister Six.
Yeah, but
which is stupid and dumb, and I don't like any of it, and it doesn't matter. But that's what's going to happen.
It's just homework at this point.
It is just homework.
What about other content? What was your favorite album of the year?
Oh, that's a great question. My favorite album of the year. It is so weird to think of music like coming out.
Who is top of your Spotify Wrapped? I don't think I know this.
Oh, well, every year it's the Mountain Goats because I put them on and just have them play as background music. But the artist that I discovered this year that was in the new artist that I discovered this year that was in my Spotify Wrapped was Emperor X, who kind of sounds like the Mountain Goats, but he's got more. He's like a guy he's an American guy who lives in Berlin. And I actually saw him live this year, and he's great. You would actually probably really like him. He's got like a bunch of songs about like being a communist living in Berlin, and it's good stuff. What was your album or artist of the year?
Well, I'm pretty sure my artist of the year was Taylor Swift. After that, it was The National, Boy Genius. What was the other one? Hang on, I'm sorry, I'm trying to find the list now. Spanish love songs was number 5.
Oh wow, are you running a coffee shop in North London? Well,
essentially, yeah.
Spanish love songs. They had a good album this year. They did.
I think my fourth might have been Olivia Rodrigo.
I have no issue with her, and the people who like her, I'm glad they like her. But I've lost my poptimism. I think it's just it's weird. I haven't lost my like love of alternative music or like the music that like is happening outside of mainstream culture, but the poptimism that I had in the mid 2000s and the 2010s is completely gone. I just don't have it anymore.
I think if I had to pick an album, I think it would be the national kind of double album thing.
I'm glad that you're having a baby because you are listening to dad rock all the time now. So that's very fitting.
Yeah, no, I really regret I was at one of their shows out in Ali Pali, and I really regret not getting one of the
That's Alexander Palace for Americans listening.
And I really regret not getting one of the hoodies that just said "Sad Dads" on it, which I thought was great.
Yeah, that'd be perfect for you.
Like, it's great. It's great merch for them, I think, as well.
Okay, last question. Breaking the content theme of this section, but last question: if this podcast were to come back, what would you do differently?
I need a different co-host, I think.
Yeah, I think definitely guests to break it up.
Yeah, no, I honestly can guess the number one thing. Like, I think that we have said all of our thoughts to each other, and we're circling on again. So I think the number one thing that if we were to do this again, it would need to be based on guests.
Yeah, we'd have to do guests, and probably like a more coherent format. I don't know, maybe less episodes. We were doing like one a week for years.
Yeah, it was a really long time.
Too much.
It was
like
almost 2 full years.
Yeah, I would do like 2 a month and make them longer and have guests, I think.
Yeah, maybe.
Well, you'll have plenty of time to podcast once the baby's born.
That's what I hear.
So
babies love podcasting.
Baby love podcast. Baby love podcast. Thank you guys for listening. If you want this show to come back at any kind of regular interval, let us know. I think actually the kind of rut in tech that we took a break from is gone. Actually,
it's moved on. Yeah,
I feel like there's more interesting stuff to talk about now, and I am not opposed to figuring out a way to bring the show back. But yeah, I would want to fix it up a little bit. But
yeah.
Thank you guys for listening, and maybe we'll be back in the new year. Who knows? Maybe baby can be maybe baby Iron Man could be the third co-host.
Maybe.
All right, bye guys.
See ya. Bye.